What's up, NBA fan? What's up, all sports fans? This your boy JB, host of the Behind the Bench podcast network and channel. Giving a shout out to the rest of the crew. I'm talking about Shad, Kelvin, Jermaine, KB Film Room, Big Dog Talk Sports. That's right. And for everyone who's tuning in, we thank you for supporting Behind the Bench. We thank you for subscribing to the channel and help making this show the best that it can be. And I just want to say briefly in regards to this year's NBA playoffs, it's been exciting. It's been super competitive, and the officials are letting these players play and letting the players determine the outcome on the court. And that's what you want to see. And the NBA has a bright future, awesome future for itself once it determines that they're going to truly move forward. It's up to the league. It's up to the league at this point, but the playoffs, can't wait to see the next games. That's all I'm going to say about that. Now, I want to discuss the original young core of the NBA, the original young core that was drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, we've been told that, to try to rationalize the thinking of why they were let go, traded away or whatnot, waived, that they were lackluster, they were subpar, they were bust, they were scrubs. To try to ease the significance of them being dispersed throughout the entire NBA landscape. But in all actuality, unless you really took the time to watch them play together, the facts show something different. And I'm going to prove that collectively, as a whole, where the whole is greater than some of its parts, that the Los Angeles Lakers drafted the best young core that we've ever seen in this league under the one and done rule. I'm going to show because all of these players that I'm going to mention have reached benchmarks in this league, in particular since they've been let go by their original team, the Lakers. So let's kick it off. But first of all, during the 2017-2018 NBA season, guess who was the second best rebounding team in the NBA? It was none other than the Los Angeles Lakers. And that surprised me. But it also shows how competitive that young core really was. If you're the second best rebounding team per percentage, and the only team that was better in that category than you were the Philadelphia 76ers with Joel Embiid, and then you had Ben Simmons playing at the top of his game, all-star level, getting you like 17 points and 10 rebounds per game. Outside of that, the young core Lakers produced the second greatest rebounding team in the league that year percentage-wise, where compared to this year's Lakers team, this year's team finished 14th in the league in rebounding percentage, which is middle of the pack. So the young core Lakers were better in that statistic than this Laker team that features two superstars that's supposed to be in win now mode. Okay. Let's go to the mid-range game. One, Brandon Ingram, the mid-range specialist. And this statistic is from the 2020-21 season, Brandon Ingram's second year with the New Orleans Pelicans. Whereas if you see this list of mid-range specialists, Chris Paul and Bradley Beal are tied for number 9 in terms of field goals made per game at the mid-range. Number 8 was Seth Curry. You have 4 players tied at 2.7 field goals made in the mid-range. Paul George, LaMarcus Aldridge, Joel Embiid, and Devin Booker, who arguably could be considered the best 2 guard in the NBA. Then you had Brandon Ingram at number 3, and then you had Kevin Durant number 2 and DeMar DeRozan at number 1. But the thing that stands out is DeMar DeRozan and Kevin Durant at that point was already over the age of 30. So statistically, for any player 30 years or younger, Brandon Ingram has consistently showed himself to be the best mid-range scorer in basketball, and he has yet to reach his prime. Also, Brandon Ingram holds the record for free throw shooting percentage increase and improvement from one season to the next, where during his last year with the Lakers, he averaged 67% from the free throw line. He increased that to 88% during his first season with the New Orleans Pelicans, which is like an 18 to 19% increase, and he holds that record. So it shows how hard he worked at improving his free throw shooting, and then where his game evolved to where he became the best mid-range scorer in basketball for any player aged 30 or younger. That's BI. And also, he's led the Pelicans to the playoffs twice in his career, both times without the team's franchise player being able to play due to injury. In his first playoff foray, he averaged 27, 6, and 6 versus the Phoenix Suns and had 4 consecutive games scoring 30 points or more. But they say we didn't have any talent. Let's go to the next one. Julius Randle. Since he's reestablished his career and evolved as a player, he became the first player since Larry Bird to average 24 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists while shooting 80% or above from the free throw line, 40% or above from three. And he accomplished that feat during the 2020-21 season when he led the New York Knicks to the playoffs for the first time since prime Carmelo Anthony back like in 2014, 2015. And this is when the Knicks didn't have the talent on the team that they have now, where the second best player was, I would say, Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose was coming off the bench then as the sixth man, and Julius Randle was the leader of that team. And if you watch him play, the nuance, the pace in which he plays, his nuance, it reminds you of Larry Bird. And ironically, as a result of his playing style and his nuance, he became the first player since Larry Bird to achieve those feats. And we're talking about prime Larry Bird when he back in the mid 80s when he won 3 consecutive league MVPs. That was Julius Randle. He betted on himself, and since he's been with the Knicks, he's earned all NBA honors twice. And he was on his way to having another high caliber season before he suffered a season-ending injury, separated shoulder that required surgery. But he'll be back next year. But that's Julius Randle, though. And during his last year with the Lakers, he was inserted to the starting lineup, and then that's when he broke through. And what technically was his 4th year, but officially was his 3rd year because he missed his rookie season after he broke his leg in his debut game with the Lakers. And he played all 82 games for the franchise. That's Julius Randle. But like they say, we didn't have any talent. Let's go to the next one. Jordan Clarkson. When he was drafted to be a 6-man level player, a high-level 6-man level player who could start on occasion, but nonetheless, his game was suited to come off the bench and provide instant offensive punch. And I always saw him as potentially down the road, as his career evolved, that he would one day win 6th Man of the Year. And he did just that after being traded to the Utah Jazz during the 2019-2020 season. And then his first full season with the Jazz, he won that honor, 6th Man of the Year. And he did so in resounding fashion by leading them down the stretch of that season, the last month and a half, when Donovan Mitchell, then the star player for the Jazz, suffered a severe ankle sprain, and Jordan Clarkson led the march and helped the Jazz clinch the top seed in the West and home court advantage throughout the playoffs. And it's because of Jordan Clarkson's play, his scoring ability, and his improved playmaking. And also, during that postseason, Jordan Clarkson was second among all players in free throw shooting percentage, only a tenth of a point behind Lou Williams. Only a tenth of a point behind Lou Williams, who's many people would consider one of the greatest six men of all time. If not, I know he's the all-time scorer as far as six man, as far as most points scored. But nonetheless, Jordan Clarkson was shooting 96% from the free throw line during that postseason, a tenth of a point behind Lou Williams. And you see all them great free throw shooters: Delano Gallinari, Damian Lillard, Kyrie Irving, Cameron Johnson, Devin Booker, Tatum, James Harden, Mikal Bridges, and Jordan Clarkson was the second best free throw shooter during the postseason. And he won Sixth Man of the Year over his teammate, Joe Ingles, one of the best three-point shooters in the league. Joe Ingles finished runner-up to Sixth Man of the Year behind Jordan Clarkson. And then he carried that level of play over to the next year when he was averaging like 20, 21 points a game, and he improved his playmaking even more. And his playmaking was more paramount than that of the point guard of the team at the time, Mike Conley, who's been a very solid point guard throughout his career. So Jordan Clarkson showed who he was as soon as he was traded back to a good team after he was traded from the Lakers to the Cleveland Cavaliers. But as they say, we didn't have any talent. I'll move on to the next one. Kyle Kuzma, much maligned during his remaining years with the Los Angeles Lakers. He was seen as an underperforming, inconsistent, turning into a bust, where he didn't even understand what his role was on the team. He went from a dynamic rookie scorer. He finished top 5 in Rookie of the Year voting his first year in the league, and was the go-to guy for the Lakers down the stretch, the young core Laker team. And then he gets traded to the Wizards. But guess what? This caption right here reads how productive and how dynamic his game was during the closing moments of a game. Check this out. Kyle Kuzma has made 12 clutch three-pointers so far this season, 4 more than any other player. Kuzma's plus negative of 42 in 73 clutch minutes is the 4th best plus minus of any player so far this season, as the Wizards own a league best 15-3 record in clutch games. Kuzma's 78.6% effective field goal percentage is the best among the 55 players with at least 20 clutch shot attempts. So during that first season, after he was traded to Washington, and remember, he was given the starting position as small forward over Rui Hachimura, who was later traded to the Lakers 2 seasons after. Kyle Kuzma earned his starting position. But a lot of people would say that Hachimura is better than Kuzma, but I beg to differ, because Kuzma has consistently averaged anywhere between 22 to 23 points a game since he's been traded to the Wizards. And in his first year, based on this metric of how dynamic he was at the close of games, so much so that the star player at the time, Bradley Beal, deferred to Kuzma during the closing moments of the game when the money was on the line. When it was time to hit the big shot, Bradley Beal deferred to Kuzma. The head coach for the Wizards, Wes Unseld Jr., drew up plays to get the ball to Kuzma because they realized they had a sharp shooter, a clutch shooter, a big time money shooter. And what this metric shows is during that first year with the Wizards, and that carried over to his second season with the Wizards, which is why this year he was awarded a $100 million deal. So he's playing above his estimated value when he was drafted. So essentially, his first 2 years with the Wizards, Kyle Kuzma was the best clutch shooter in the NBA. When you're shooting 78.6% effective field goal percentage down during the closing moments of a game, and it was the best percentage among the 55 players with at least 20 clutch shot attempts. So that means he was more clutch than any MVP caliber player, any superstar, any all-star, three-point shooter, mid-range shooter, free throw shooter. He was the best clutch performer down the stretch in the waning moments of the game. And that was a reflection of who he was starting his career as a rookie. So Kyle Kuzma is a six-man level player with a superstar mentality with the game on the line. Thus, it won't be mentioned by the experts, but percentage-wise, he is the best clutch shooter in the league ever since he was traded to the Wizards. And actually, he carried that trait. He possessed that ability when he was playing for his original team, the Lakers, but a certain guy wanted him traded to bring in another superstar. And that's why he's playing in Washington as we speak. But as they say, we didn't have any talent. I'll move on to the next one. Lonzo Ball is often considered the major bust because he's been hurt the last 2.5 years. And I get it. But check this out. During his rookie year, his statistical production mirrored that of Jason Kidd. Carbon copy. And he averaged about 10.5 points a game, even with the unorthodox shot. But the key was he was averaging 7.5 rebounds, 7 assists, and about 1.5 steals a game. He had great court vision, great speed in transition, and he had a low turnover ratio for a rookie. So he had the raw talent, but he had to develop and redefine and recreate and improve that shot, that shooting form. So by the time he was traded to the Pelicans, he corrected his shooting form within the season, and he improved his three-point shooting to 38% before he signed with the Chicago Bulls. But guess what? By his fourth year, according to B-Ball Index, during the 2020-21 season, Lonzo Ball led all players, all defenders in taking on the toughest defensive assignments with a minimum of 500 minutes. Number 5 on the list was Royce O'Neal, who at the time was playing for the Utah Jazz. Number 4 was Gary Harris, at the time who was playing for the Denver Nuggets. Mikal Bridges, at that time, who was playing for the Phoenix Suns, who advanced to the finals in 2021. Number 2 on the list is Lou Dort of the Oklahoma City Thunder, excellent perimeter defender. But the number 1 player on that list who was assigned the toughest offensive player to guard on a game-by-game basis was Lonzo Ball. And then once he signed with the Bulls, that trend continued. He improved his three-point shooting to over 40%. He was shooting 42% from three. And his free throw shooting improved to 80%. But he still maintained that same status of taking on the toughest defensive assignments. So when you look at his metric as a player, he was evolving to the player that he was initially drafted to be, becoming the league's first 3-and-D, not 3-and-D wing, where that's the raid, where every team is seeking a 3-and-D wing to cover the perimeter defense. He was becoming the league's first 3-and-D point guard. And his presence was so profound on the Bulls that first year before he suffered the injury that he helped propel the Bulls to first place in the Eastern Conference the first 3 months of the season before he suffered that knee injury that he's finally recovering from now. and hopefully he'll be ready for action at the beginning of next year. But DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and Alex Caruso both said how important his presence was on their team, and they still miss his ability on the court in terms of his offensive improvement and his defensive intensity. He was becoming the league's first 3-and-D point guard, Lonzo Ball. But as they say, we didn't have any talent. I'll move on to the next one. Alex Caruso, who was brought up through the Lakers G League affiliate team, the Los Lobos Lakers. After signing with the Chicago Bulls, this is a caption of what Caruso, how well he was playing as a reserve coming off the bench. And this was last season. During the first half of that year, Alex Caruso was leading the NBA in steals per game while playing under 30 minutes off the bench. Let me repeat that. He is a reserve player who was leading the league in steals over Jimmy Butler, Marcus Smart, who won Defensive Player of the Year, Chris Paul, one of the all-time leaders in steals per game, Gary Trent Jr., Dejounte Murray, LaMelo Ball, Donovan Mitchell, Steph Curry, Paul George. Alex Caruso, a Los Angeles Laker, as a reserve playing under 30 minutes a game, was leading the entire NBA in steals per game. And when Lonzo Ball was in uniform, he and Lonzo Ball helped propel the Bulls to being one of the top defensive teams in the NBA. And then Alex Caruso suffered an injury due to a dirty play where he broke his hand. And he missed like 6-8 weeks of action. But prior to then, the man probably, if he was healthy all the way, he probably would have led the league in steals per game. Alex Caruso, an original Los Angeles Laker. But once again, they say we didn't have any talent. I'll move on to the next one. Now, this is a caveat. Look at all these great rim protectors. Jared Allen, Yusef Nurkic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Rudy Gobert, Anthony Davis, Jaren Jackson Jr., Nick Claxton, Isaiah Hartenstein, Victor Wembanyama, Brook Lopez, Joel Embiid, Kristaps Porzingis, Walker Kessler, Chet Holmgren. In that list, you have league MVPs, Rookie of the Years, runner-up to Rookie of the Years, generational talents, Defensive Player of the Years, level players. You have one of the most athletic bigs in the league, but yet leading the pack this year as the top rim protector in the league by percentage is Ivica Zubac, drafted by the Lakers in 2016, and he was deemed expendable during his third year in the league when he was traded to, of all teams, the crosstown rival, the locker room rival, Los Angeles Clippers. He was deemed a scrub, that he had no game, where the metrics showed prior to him being traded, per 36 minutes, he can give you 18 points and 12 rebounds. He can easily be an all-star caliber center if he was featured more in the Clippers offense. But nonetheless, he's become the best rim protector in the NBA and one of the best defenders at that position in the NBA, where he's often asked to cover for the defensive lapses of the top players on the team. But he was held in such low esteem that he was deemed a scrub when he was traded. But lo and behold, this year, he was the best rim protector in the NBA over all them big names that I just mentioned. But yet again, we didn't have any talent. Josh Hart. Josh Hart is showing his value in such a definitive way that a fan of the New York Knicks posted that Josh Hart is one of the top 5 finishers at the rim in the league. Now, you would never think that, but when he was traded to the New Orleans Pelicans, he started to work and improve at that facet of the game where he developed a cross step that allows him to create the separation from the defender to gain the leverage on the defender to attack the rim and finish in high efficiency. He's one of the top 5 finishers at the rim when it comes to transition, going full court from one end of the court to the other end. He's top 5 in the NBA. And when it comes to that cross step, percentage-wise, he's the best in the league in this category. Also, Josh Hart, they posted a caption during game 1 of the second round series versus the Indiana Pacers, where he is second among all players in NBA history 6'4" or shorter and rebounding per game during the postseason. At the time, he was averaging 12.3 rebounds a game, which is second only to Paul Arizin, legendary figure of the NBA, Hall of Famer Paul Arizin, who has a 1/10 of a point more rebounds than Josh Hart. And this was 60 years ago. And actually, Hart has probably surpassed that number because the last 2 games he's grabbed like 15 rebounds. And then in game 3 versus Indiana, he grabbed another 18 rebounds. So pound for pound, he is showing what he was projected to be when he was drafted, an elite level rebounder with intangibles. The intangibles is finishing at the rim with high efficiency with the cross step. But pound for pound, he is the best rebounder in the NBA. And he is showing that in this postseason while being inserted into the starting lineup due to the injuries to Julius Randle. He is that's one of the most important facets and elements of basketball is rebounding. And pound for pound, he is the best at it. But yet again, they'll say we didn't have any talent. So in closing, the original young core of the NBA, pound for pound, player for player, when you add it all up, where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, the Los Angeles Lakers scouting department did the greatest round of drafting over a 4-year period that any team, any other franchise in league history in the one and done era. And I would love to have seen what they could have did together if they were allowed to grow and become a unit, become a squad, and you usher in the best young core in the world going into the new decade of the 2020s, and you add the right star player to anchor them and to grow with them, I'm telling you, we would have the deepest team in the league, the most versatile team in the league. They can play any way. Fast pace, half court, bully ball, big, going big. You want to play small ball for a little minute? We can adapt to any situation. This team would have won multiple championships. And this is why Kyle Kuzma said, going into his 3rd year, when they start trading away that young core, he said, I'm surprised that we let go of all this young talent. I believe we had a dynasty because for all practical purposes, when you look at it, when you add all the pieces of the puzzle together, they would have became a dynasty. And we're talking about 3 to 4 championships in the 2020s. That's what we gave up. We gave all that up for a brief moment in time. But the young core of the LA Lakers is showing themselves proud, and I will always root for them from beginning to end. So I just want to drop that nugget. Until next time, this is JB for BTB Behind the Bench.